Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I want to take the time to look at a store-bought tree and what you should actually do in the first steps when you get such a store-bought tree. So what steps are important to make sure this tree will thrive in your house? Because of course when we bring them in from the store, they are often not set up in the right way to really survive in our house. They are set up to look good in the store. They are set up to also make it on your way home basically, but they're often not set up to really make it once you have it in your home for a while. And that's why I thought it is a good idea to make this video to just show you what you could or should do when you purchase or receive such a tree as a gift, and what are the best steps then to really work towards turning this into a tree that will just be healthy long term. And the first thing that we of course have to do is yes, removing all the stuff it comes with, which is of course the price tag. It comes with a little information on how to take care of it, which of course is nice that they put that in here, but often depending on the look of the tree, and we will see that in a second, this would still not really make a difference if you take care of it. And then we already start to take a closer look at the tree. What you can probably spot right in the beginning is that they covered the soil in those little decorative stones. Of course, looks nice. However, the problem is this is trapping moisture within the soil. It cannot really evaporate, so any excess moisture that the roots don't take up into the tree, which often will lead to root rot over time. And I can already start to see here the soil not really looking very healthy in here because it stays moist for too long. So first thing I'm gonna do is remove these little stones. So I'm just gonna see how easily they come out. There is often, or sometimes at least, also the case that they glue in those little stones, which of course is even worse for your tree because that means it's hard to remove them. The glue is also trapping more and more of the moisture in here because it cannot even leave through the gaps within the stones, and that leaves your tree basically on a very fast road towards, well, decline actually. And that of course we try to avoid here. So I take everything out, and then I already see another big problem with this tree. So we removed most of the stones. I can already see the soil is extremely compact and moist in here. I haven't watered that in at least 2 to 3 days, so it shouldn't have that much moisture still in this soil, so definitely a problem. And one of the reasons why that is the case is because if we look at the bottom of this little pot, we don't see any drainage holes. You can also see there is no little plastic pot in here that you can remove from this cover pot. This was really simply planted into the cover pot with no drainage holes. So every time you water, and you might water a bit too much, which of course naturally will happen once in a while, the water collects in here. It cannot leave through any drainage holes, and your roots will sit in this water and you will develop root rot, and the tree will suffer tremendously and probably eventually then die. So we definitely have to get it out of this pot. It will also not stay, of course, in this cover pot. You could, of course, use this pot for something else, for a normal house plant. You could even go so far as to drill drainage holes in here and use it as a bonsai pot in the future. But as it is right now, definitely not the case, not really useful for bonsai. So let me try to see how well it is actually adhering to the pot here, and it seems to quickly start to loosen up a little bit, and the soil is breaking off. I will actually give it one more push, trying to see. We see healthy roots. They're still healthy now, which is a good sign, because of course it could already be at a point where this is too late, but for now, it seems the roots are still healthy. What I quickly will do now is remove this old soil and then get back to you, and we continue with looking at this tree and what we should do next. But you probably can already guess that after we will remove this soil, we will have to pot it up, and it won't be in the same soil again. We're gonna use an inorganic mixture to pot this up and really set it up for, yes, a good long-term health. So here we are again. I removed the soil, and what you can see right away is how deep this tree was actually potted into this pot. So all of this, you can still see where the moisture basically is visible on the trunk. All of this was potted up below the surface in this pot, which of course also brings us to a very important question. Do we root prune this or not? as this video is definitely aiming for people that maybe don't have that much experience with bonsai trees yet, that might be one of the first ones in your collection, I wouldn't go too hard on your trees right away. So we already now took it out of the pot, we're gonna repot it somewhere else. We might even look at the foliage then still. If we root prune now and really drastically root prune this, it might be a bit too much on the tree. What you of course always can do is you have like long feeder roots like this, that is not a problem. You can go here and give it a little bit of a haircut, just taking out the really long ones. But what I meant with really pruning the roots is pruning the ones up here, because this is actually the root ball of the Ficus ginseng, or the Ficus microcarpa. It is actually crafted onto here, so this is a different genus up here, different Ficus variety up here than the one we see down here, which is actually just the root of a bigger variety of Ficus. And as I said, I probably wouldn't recommend you, if you don't have that much experience with Ficus microcarpa in specific, or just bonsai in general, I wouldn't go in and prune all of these for now and try to basically root them again and only work with roots that are up here, for example. That will be very stressful on the tree. It can be done. I have done it with other trees in my collection and they are still healthy growing, but I wouldn't go this drastic with this one, because I just want to show you what you can do when you get a tree like this, what you should do, what is necessarily. This would be an additional step that can be done. It probably would improve the look of the tree, and probably over the next couple of years I will get around to do that. But for now, we continue actually just repotting this tree now. So let me put this to the side and actually get a fitting pot. So I'm just taking one of those very basic blue glazed pots, and we're going to repot this tree into this pot. For that, as I mentioned, we're going to use inorganic soil, so it's a mixture of lava rock, pumice. There's also a little bit of fertilizer pebbles in here, so I don't have to worry about fertilizing within the first couple of months. And we're going to put a little ground layer in here, into the pot. Just a little bit to cover the pot. I put a little bit of mesh in the bottom also to cover the drainage holes, because of course this does have drainage holes. We will need them, of course. The big problem we had with this pot is definitely then out of the way. And now we see how we can position this in here. And I think the problem at the beginning is we don't cover this roots here, but this might make a little cute feature as aerial roots. Of course, we could have, as I said, cut it back to this point, but we don't need to stress the tree too much. Let me see with the height. It actually gives it an interesting look, to be honest, and in the future we might even work as a root over rock here by placing a rock underneath here. So I'm actually quite happy with leaving it the way it is. Let's see if we would have to tie this in here. I think it has a lot of root mass in here. We will get a lot of stability still going on here without actually tying it in with wire. You can, of course, otherwise feed wire through the drainage holes and then just tie them around the tree, so it is stable in here. But then we just go around filling out everything with the soil. Making sure we cover everything. It already starts to stabilize a little bit. Put some more here, also in the back. So it will definitely be stable. I'm not sure these roots here will survive. I think one or two of them are already a little bit thicker, so they should survive also now being uprooted basically. But of course it could be those die back, but we have a lot of roots down here. Then we even in the future might remove this little part of the tree. But that is in the future. For now, we're just focusing on making sure this tree actually makes it to a point where we can further work on it. Here you can still see we have a lot of space. And that is actually not it with potting it up. We're going to use a little wooden chopstick to really work in the soil within the roots here to make sure there is no empty bubbles in here somewhere where there is no soil, and can still see it actually working itself down. So when you can see how the soil basically is feeding itself down once you do this with the wooden chopsticks, you know there was still space in here that is being filled out now with soil. So we probably will need a little bit more soil still to cover everything here, and then we're done with the repot part of taking care of this tree. Let me get a little bit more soil just around here, filling out the areas that have become open and accessible again. Also here in the front, I can see we can still use some. But yes, that was a very almost quick and dirty, I would say, repot. So really just removing the old soil that was definitely not fitting, giving the tree a chance here in nice inorganic soil that all my other ficuses are really doing well in. So I'm pretty sure it will also be the case for this one. And then let's still take a look at this tree. Of course, what you could do now still is look at the branches, see, do I want to rearrange them? Do I want to wire them maybe a little bit, which we probably will do. Pruning, to be honest, as we already put a lot of shock to the system of this tree with repotting it, I wouldn't recommend it at this point. This is just too much for the tree. But what we can do, of course, is, for example, spread out here a little bit the foliage just to give it a nice look. But that is something you can do in the future. Here, I see we have some dead branches going on, so we can remove that right away to down here. But I would say, just to give you an idea of what you could still do, is we will wire part of this tree at least. So probably this part here, those two branches up here. So I'm getting some wire, see the size that we need. We cut it and then we just apply it. So I would feed it in between here. Probably go first up around here, making sure like we get a nice grip on this tree. The variety of microcarpet that they put on here is very dense when it comes to the foliage, so it might be a little bit difficult to get in here with the wire. Just try to not really trap any foliage within it, and then you should be good to go. And then we move around here, of course, making sure we also give it the stability here, and adhering as close as possible to the branch, and maybe one more around here. And we have applied it, and now of course we need to see in which direction we want to put it. First, we should still check what do we see as the front or the back of the tree. So we have the choice between this one here and this one here. And I would say, as we have the potential future feature of aerial roots here, I would go with this as the front of the tree, which means this is simply the back here that we can then use to spread out and give it a little bit more surface area basically here, seeing if it spreads out here in the back. And in the future we might even wire this out a little bit, bring this a bit to the front. Here I see a lot of dieback on this tree still from older parts, so we take that out. And other than that, let's see. I think I'm quite happy with it. Maybe this one we put a bit up again. Not going too crazy now for the first wiring, just opening up a little bit, spreading the canopy up here. But yeah, just to give you an indication what you can still do with this tree, then of course you could clean out those little stumps here that we have left on now from tied back branches. So you can always take out something like this, of course. We have this little feature here, which probably is dead anyway, because it has even previously not reached any soil with the roots here. So in the future, I will also see how to best clean out this part here. I don't really see it as a nice addition to the tree, so we will also, after it has settled in here, remove it in the future. But yes, to sum up the important steps that you have to take when looking at a new tree that you brought from a shop that is not really grown in a professional way, so it's a commercially grown tree that are really mass produced, just sent out there to sell, and then they don't really care if it survives or not, of course. It is important to see at the overall package it comes in. You saw it with this little pot. Definitely it was set up for failure right away from the beginning. If we would have left it in there with the stones covering the soil, so you wouldn't even see if the soil is too moist, and then no drainage holes in the pot to never be able to get rid of excess moisture. And then you have to, of course, simply take the countermeasures. If you see the soil and the pot is not fitting, you repot it. If you see the pot is fine and you will be able to deal with the soil as well, and the soil mixture is fitting, you can of course leave it in there and focus more on pruning and wiring the tree, and simply setting it up there, already working on the structure that you have intended for it. But important is, when you get a tree like this, just give it a very close look and think for yourself, is this the environment this tree will thrive in the best? Or can I improve this somehow that maybe in the short run will be stressful for the tree, but in the future will definitely enhance its environment and its overall health? And I think if you ask yourself that question, you're setting up your trees for success. So hopefully this was a helpful video for you. If you have any questions still about what you should do with a new tree that you get into your house, of course, simply leave that questions in the comments and I will make sure to answer them for you. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. And if you enjoy this channel, of course, feel free to subscribe to it. And hopefully I will see you in the next video then. Until then, take care.